working together. When I first walked into our office, this is a brand new space, new company, I had to change the rules, I could set them exactly the way I wanted. I was thinking about the first time that I was in an Agile project. I wasn't used to stand-ups. It was the openness. I was used to just hanging around and doing my own job. I'm a developer, nobody knows what I'm doing, so I can just code and be asking me what I'm doing. So that was the first challenge that I had, openness of working in an Agile environment. We have, I don't know if I can go back to the previous slide, but we have all those different roles. The client services, the people who are actually delivering the product, which is the ads. Everybody was very territorial about it. So creative wants complete control, wants to sit around and design the ad until it's ready. Whereas the account directors are very, very nervous. They want things to happen really fast. Really good example, my co-founder is our creative director. And I asked him, what's your most productive time of the day? And he told me 5 o'clock. I asked him, why? He said, oh, that's because that's when client services left. That's when I can actually sit down and get work. And I said, well, we can't structure a company that way. We can't have some people being most productive when the other people have left. That's not collaborative. We might as well have 2 separate companies. Which got me to thinking, why? Why is there such a conflict between client services and creative? Well, it turns out that it's just there's a lack of respect for each other. One half of the business thinks that we are awesome, we are culture, we are the ones creating everything. And the other half is just to communicate that to the clients. There's actually one term that's usually used to refer to client service. It's very derogative. We usually call them client side instead of client services. Because they don't really think, they just tell you, this is what the client say. And they don't interpret the brief. So there was a lot of hostility between the two teams. Whereas the client services people say, oh, creative, just because you can design something doesn't mean you're all that. You can't talk to clients, you can't talk to people. And when you mess up, we're the ones who have to face the client. So one of the first things that I had to do was to make sure that everyone has joint ownership of the project. We're not working against each other. We're actually working collaboratively to deliver something for our client. Satisfying your customer early. This, surprisingly, is very hard for us to do because when you go to see a client, they want to see high fidelity stuff. They want to see it looking, pixel perfect on the first day. They don't tolerate ideas evolving slowly until you get to a point where it works. Very interesting quote by Roger Sterling here. He's saying, the day when you sign a client, that's the day you start losing them. Because the minute they've signed that check, you're running around trying to deliver on their behalf. So in terms of a pitch, how does that work for us? How do we deliver early for our clients? It mostly involves putting what they require first, putting what they need most urgently first. So if somebody comes to you and tells you, hey, I need a new website, we look at, well, what do you have currently, what do your competitors have? And then we start with wireframes, and then doing the higher fidelity stuff later on. So at least they know that we're working to solve their problem. Change management. Surprisingly, for what we're doing, change isn't as expensive for us to implement as it is for maybe software. Sometimes you might do a concept and the client just says, nah, I don't like it, it's not working for me. So, I mean, in those instances, it's very easy for us to change. It hasn't been that big of a problem. However, sometimes, depending on when something is being changed, and this would be similar to software, we have this joke in-house, which is always like, we'll fix it in post-production. It kind of comes back from movie days. So like, if you're shooting a movie and some extra just jumps up at a point when he wasn't supposed to jump up, you're just like, we'll fix it later on. So that kind of become a running joke in the industry. Everyone's like, yeah, we'll fix it later on. So we do have change happening a lot later in the process, but to be honest, it isn't so much of an issue for us right now. Going back to the issue I said about media changing. Advertising agencies traditionally sell a product. So you've got the product, we sell it for you. But with the way the industry is changing right now, we're actually having advertising leading product development. Because they're the ones who are out there engaging with the customers. They're looking at responses, so they can actually feedback and tell you what to build. So we're having a lot of agencies that are actually building stuff. So they're actually building software, or they're building, designing products. A good example is with Coca-Cola. They've had this twist and share campaign where everybody wants to share Coca-Cola. And this agency came up with a can which you can split in half. And you can have your half and I can have my half. So the agency itself is actually creative. They've actually invented something. It's not just sitting back and waiting for the client to say, this is what I want to shove down people's throats. So in that regard, we are finding that we have to adopt a lot more processes that you're using for software development. Because we're not just sitting and building an app. We're actually helping clients to build something, to achieve something. This is the way I like to look at a traditional sort of waterfall method. I like to think of value to your client being something that's sweet. So think about a sugarcane factory. And I usually tell my client, well, if you want me to give you everything in one go, it's like you're asking me to put this sugarcane on one end and run all the way to get the juice at the end. To build this, I'll need to fabricate this machine, I'll have to build all this infrastructure and make sure the cog is working. So that's my example of that big boat. I think we need to, this is what I would need to do if you wanted me to tell you exactly how your project, how much it's going to cost, when you want it by. Just to get some juice, I'll have to build this whole infrastructure. Whereas the way I see our company is a blender. So we've got the same product. The client wants some juice because they're thirsty, or because they like it, but I can do it in a blender. If it's not sweet enough, I can add some sugar. If it's too sweet, I can add water. So I'm not building that whole infrastructure. I'm focusing on, if you want juice, I'm going to give you the best juice. Obviously, the issue becomes, what about scale? We'll have lots of blenders. But this is the way I like to view our company as. We never walk in and promise the client that, yeah, we've done this before, this is the process, this is how you're going to get it. We like to be like, we'll figure out, we'll evolve, we'll learn together. Open communication. This is from one of my favorite quotes from Peter Drucker. He says the most important thing in communication is to find out what's not been said. I think what he meant was non-verbal communication. If I tell you, this is an awesome presentation and I'm yawning, you're like, it's probably bored. But this is very important because sometimes it's very easy to misunderstand what someone wants. And in other times, there's usually open dishonesty. I'll tell you an example that happened to me 2 weeks ago. So we had a meeting, a status meeting with our clients. They insist on it. We have to have a review meeting every month. And I knew it wasn't due for still a week or two. One of the client services people told me, okay, I need to have the decks ready by Wednesday. I said, why? Because the meeting's on Thursday morning and I have to go over it. Turns out the meeting wasn't on Thursday morning. But they were just saying that so that I could do it faster because they kind of suspected that it would be late. So just ask them, so how often do you guys do this? How often do you actually lie to us about deadlines? And it was like, oh, sometimes if I tell you when it exactly is, you're going to take your time, it's not going to be ready. So I was like, well, that's not, at stand-up, everyone should tell you, this is what I'm working on, I need this from you, what are the roadblocks? That's how we should resolve it. We shouldn't resolve issues by going around each other's backs and manipulating each other. Some of the challenges we've had so far in implementing Agile, the hardest of all has been time boxing creativity. I walk to the creative director and tell him, how long is it going to take to make a really awesome ad? And he can't tell me. He cannot tell me a straight answer. Because creatives, and I see myself as one, we tend to think of ourselves as special. Something could either take me 10 hours, or it could take me 2 minutes.